The lights in the lower decks of the Starship Infinite Promise were always dim at night. Tay pushed his cleaning cart through the empty corridors, his footsteps echoing against the metal walls. Behind him, his daughter Hannah hummed a soft tune as she helped wipe down the railings. "Dad, why do the Kalthine people have 3 arms?" Hannah asked, pointing to an information display on the wall. Tay smiled. His daughter asked questions about everything. "They evolved on a planet with very tall trees. The extra arm helped them climb better." Hannah nodded, her eyes bright with wonder. She was 8 years old, small for her age, with dark hair pulled back in a ponytail. Most nights, she came with him on his cleaning shifts. The station's human school only ran during the day, and Tay could not afford a babysitter on his janitor's salary. It had been 3 years since his wife died. 3 years of working night shifts, raising Hannah alone, trying to give her a better life on this massive station where humans were the newest members of the galactic community. Most alien species looked down on humans. They thought Earth's people were primitive, barely worthy of notice. Tay did not care what they thought. He had his daughter, his job, and that was enough. "Come on, Hannah. We need to finish the diplomatic wing tonight. The Queen arrives tomorrow." "Which Queen?" Hannah asked, skipping alongside him. "Queen Vix of the Altharian Empire. Very important. The whole station is preparing for her visit." Tay had heard the rumors. Queen Vix was coming for peace negotiations, but everyone knew she wanted war. 6 months ago, her daughter was killed by political enemies. Since then, the Queen had become cold and dangerous. If these negotiations failed, war would spread across the sector. But that was not Tay's problem. His job was to keep the floors clean and the air filters working. Politics belonged to people like Ambassador Q, the human diplomat who was always rushing around looking stressed. They reached the diplomatic wing. The corridors here were wider, decorated with artwork from 100 different worlds. Hannah gasped at a fountain that seemed to flow upward, defying gravity. "It's beautiful," she whispered. "Don't touch anything," Tay warned gently. "This area is restricted. We're only here to clean." He began his work, moving systematically through the corridors. Hannah helped where she could, mostly just keeping him company. She told him about a book she was reading, about a girl who could talk to stars. Tay listened, enjoying the sound of her voice in the quiet station. An hour passed, then 2. Tay was cleaning the ventilation panels when he realized something. Silence. "Hannah!" he called out. No answer. His heart began to race. "Hannah!" He abandoned his cart and ran through the corridors, calling her name. Panic filled his chest. The diplomatic wing was massive, with dozens of rooms and chambers. How long had he been distracted? 5 minutes? 10? He turned a corner and nearly ran into a security guard. The alien, a tall reptilian creature, held up one clawed hand. "Restricted area," the guard said in broken human language. "My daughter," Tay gasped. "She was with me. Small girl, 8 years old. Have you seen her?" The guard's eyes widened. Before he could answer, another voice crackled over his communication device. The guard listened, then looked at Tay with something like fear. "Come with me. Now." They ran through the corridors. Tay's mind raced with terrible possibilities. What if Hannah had touched something dangerous? What if she had wandered into a restricted zone and been hurt? They stopped at a large door marked with symbols Tay did not recognize. 2 more guards stood there, looking confused and uncertain. Through the door, Tay could hear voices. One was Hannah's. He burst through the door. The room was dimly lit, filled with strange alien plants that glowed with soft blue light. In the center sat the largest alien Tay had ever seen. Queen Vix was nearly 3 meters tall, her body covered in dark, glossy plating like an insect shell. Her eyes were compound, reflecting light in rainbow patterns. 4 arms extended from her torso, each ending in delicate fingers despite their size, and sitting cross-legged in front of her was Hana. "Dad!" Hana waved at him, smiling. "Look, I made a new friend!" Tay's legs nearly gave out with relief. Then terror replaced it. His daughter was sitting with the most powerful and dangerous being in the sector. "I'm so sorry, Your Majesty," Tay stammered, bowing his head. "She didn't mean to intrude. Please, I'll take her and—" "Wait." Queen Vix's voice was deep, resonating through a translator device on her chest. She raised one hand, and Tay froze. The Queen's compound eyes were fixed on Hana. When she spoke, her voice was soft, almost wondering. "She looks like my Lyra," the Queen said. "My daughter who died, not in appearance, but in spirit. In the light that shines from within." Tay did not understand. He only knew he needed to get Hana away from this dangerous situation. But Hana was not afraid. She stood up and walked over to her father, taking his hand. Then she did something that made Tay's heart stop. She pulled a small flower from her pocket, one of the artificial ones from the station's garden level, and offered it to the Queen. "My mom died too," Hana said simply. "I'm sorry yours did. Flowers always made my mom smile. Maybe this will help." The room was completely silent. The guards stared. Tay could not breathe. Queen Vix slowly reached down with one massive hand. She took the tiny flower between two fingers, holding it as carefully as if it were made of glass. For a long moment, she simply looked at it. Then something impossible happened. A sound came from the Queen, a deep rumbling that the translator interpreted as laughter. But it was not cruel laughter. It was surprised, almost gentle. "What is your name, little one?" the Queen asked. "Hana, and this is my dad, Tay. He's a janitor here. He works really hard." "I see." The Queen looked at Tay now, her alien features unreadable. "Your daughter has given me a gift. The first genuine kindness I have received since my Lyra died. She wandered into my meditation chamber, and instead of fear, she showed compassion." Tay found his voice. "She shouldn't have disturbed you, Your Majesty. I take full responsibility." "Responsibility?" The Queen tilted her head. "Tell me, Tay the janitor, how did you teach your daughter to see suffering and respond with kindness rather than fear?" Tay was confused. I just taught her to be good, to help others when she can." Queen Vix was silent for a long time. Finally, she spoke to her guards in her own language, then switched back to the translator. "Leave us. I wish to speak with them." The guards hesitated, then obeyed. The door closed, leaving Tay and Hana alone with the Queen. "Sit," Queen Vix said, gesturing to cushions near her. "Please, I would like to talk with your daughter more if you permit it. And I would like to hear about humans and how they raise their children to be so fearlessly kind." Tai looked at Hana. She was smiling, unafraid. Against all his instincts, against all common sense, Tai nodded. They sat down with the Queen and began to talk. Outside, in the corridors of the station, word began to spread. The grieving alien Queen, who came for war, had smiled for the first time in months, and she had smiled because of a human child. Ambassador Q could not believe what he was hearing. He stood in the security office, staring at the monitor that showed Queen Vix's meditation chamber. "How long have they been in there?" he asked. 2 hours, the security chief replied. "The Queen ordered us not to disturb them." On the screen, Q could see Tay and his daughter sitting with the Queen. They appeared to be talking, just talking, like old friends. "This is impossible," Q muttered. He had spent months preparing for this negotiation. Every word had been carefully chosen, every gesture planned, and now a janitor and his child had somehow gotten a private audience with the most powerful being in the sector. "Should we extract them, sir?" a guard asked. "No," Q said slowly. No, if the queen wanted them removed, she would have done it already. We wait. Inside the chamber, Hana was telling Queen Vix about Earth. She talked about oceans and mountains, about animals called dogs and cats, about seasons changing and snow falling from the sky. The queen listened with an intensity that surprised Tay. "Your world sounds beautiful," Queen Vix said. "Tell me, Hana, are you afraid of me?" Hana thought about it seriously. "You're really big," she said honestly, "and you look different from humans. But my dad taught me that being different doesn't mean being scary. He says every species is different, and that's what makes the universe interesting." The queen made a sound that might have been approval. "Your father is wise. Many beings in this galaxy have forgotten that truth." She turned her compound eyes to Tay. "You work as a janitor. This is considered lowly work, yes? Even among your own people?" Tay felt his face heat with embarrassment, but he answered truthfully. "Yes, but it's honest work. It pays for Hana's education. I don't need more than that." "Honest work," the queen repeated. "I am surrounded by diplomats, generals, advisors. All of them have important titles. All of them speak with carefully chosen words. But none of them have spoken to me with the honesty of a janitor and his daughter." She stood up, her massive form casting shadows across the room. Tay tensed, ready to grab Hana and run if needed. But the queen simply walked to a wall where images appeared in the air like ghosts. "This was my Lyra," she said softly. The hologram showed a young Altharian, smaller than the queen, but with the same glossy plating. She was in a garden, laughing as she played with small flying creatures. The image shifted, showing her reading, then painting, then sitting quietly and looking at stars. "She was curious about everything," Queen Vix said. "She asked endless questions. She found joy in small things that others overlooked. When she saw someone in pain, she wanted to help them, even if they were her enemies." Hana walked closer to the hologram, studying it carefully. "She looks nice." She was. And 6 months ago, my political rivals killed her. They planted a bomb in her transport. She died instantly, along with 12 others. The queen's voice was cold now. "Since then, I have been preparing for war. I have been ready to burn their worlds to ash." Tay felt fear return. This was the real Queen Vix, the one he had heard about. Dangerous, ruthless. "But you haven't," Hana said quietly. The queen looked down at her. "What?" "You haven't burned anything. Not yet. That means part of you doesn't want to." The chamber was silent. Tay held his breath. "My people expect it," Queen Vix said. "They expect me to avenge my daughter, to show strength." "My dad was really angry when my mom died," Hana said. "He broke things. He yelled. I heard him crying at night. But then one day I asked him if being angry would bring Mom back." "What did he say?" the queen asked. "He said no. He said nothing would bring her back, but he could choose what to do with his anger. He could let it control him, or he could use it to make sure I grew up safe and happy, because that's what Mom would have wanted." Tay remembered that conversation. It had been one of the hardest days of his life, trying to explain death and loss to a 5-year-old child. He had not realized she remembered it so clearly. Queen Vix stood very still. Then she did something strange. She knelt down, bringing her massive head level with Hana's. "In my culture," she said slowly, "we have a gift. We can sense what you might call a soul, a spiritual essence. Every being has one, unique to them. I have met thousands of beings in my life. Never once have I sensed the same essence twice." She paused. "Until today. When I saw you, Hana, I felt my daughter's essence. Not identical, but so similar it shocked me. As if the universe itself was sending me a message." Tay did not understand. "What kind of message?" "I don't know," the queen admitted. Perhaps that life continues in unexpected forms. Perhaps that grief blinds us to new connections. Or perhaps, she looked at Hana, perhaps that wisdom can come from the smallest voices, if we choose to listen. She stood up again. Tay, I have a request. Allow your daughter to visit me over the next few days, just a few hours each day. I want to understand humans better. I want to understand how your species teaches children like her. Every instinct told Tay to refuse, to take Hana and run far away from this dangerous situation. But he looked at his daughter's face. She was smiling, hopeful. Hana, he said quietly, do you want to visit the Queen? Yes, Hana said immediately. She's sad. Dad, like you were. Maybe I can help. Tay closed his eyes. His daughter had such a big heart. Too big, maybe. If anything happens to her, he started. I give you my word as Queen, Vix interrupted. No harm will come to her. She will be guarded by my personal security, and you may stay with her if you wish. Tay thought about his job. He would probably be fired for missing shifts, but what else could he do? Okay, he said finally, but I stay with her. Agreed. Queen Vix touched a device on her arm. I will inform my staff. Tomorrow you both will return here. I will show Hana my world, and she will show me hers. Perhaps we will both learn something. As they left the chamber, Tay noticed the guards staring at them with wide eyes. Ambassador Q rushed forward, questions spilling from his mouth, but Tay barely heard them. He was thinking about the flower Hana had given the Queen. Such a small gesture, such a simple act of kindness. Somehow, impossibly, it had reached across the vast distance between species. It had touched the heart of a queen who came for war. Tay did not know what would happen next, but for the first time since arriving at this station, he felt like maybe humans had something valuable to offer the galaxy after all. Something that had nothing to do with technology or weapons, something as simple as compassion. The next morning, Tay stood outside Queen Vix's chambers wearing his cleanest clothes. They were still janitor's clothes, patched and worn, but they were the best he had. Hana held his hand wearing her favorite dress with stars printed on it. Ready? He asked her. Ready, she said with a smile. The doors opened. Inside, the chamber had changed. The dim lighting was brighter now. Cushions were arranged in a circle, and a table held food from different worlds. Queen Vix stood waiting, and beside her was a smaller Altharian wearing the uniform of a teacher. Welcome, Queen Vix said. This is Instructor Bora. She will help translate cultural concepts between our species. The days that followed formed a pattern. Each morning, Tai and Hana would visit the Queen. Sometimes they talked. Sometimes the Queen showed them holograms of her world, of Princess Lyra, of Altharian history. Sometimes Hana taught the Queen human games or told her stories from Earth. Tay watched his daughter bond with an alien queen and wondered how this had become his life. On the third day, Queen Vix showed them the Altharian meditation practice. She sat perfectly still, her breathing slow and measured. We believe, she explained, that stillness allows us to hear the universe speaking. Hana tried to sit still. She lasted about 30 seconds before fidgeting. I hear my stomach speaking, she giggled. It says it's hungry. The Queen made her rumbling laugh sound. Tay realized he was hearing it more often now. Perhaps human meditation is different. We don't really meditate, Tay admitted. At least I don't. When I need to think, I clean. The repetitive motion helps clear my mind. Cleaning as meditation, the Queen said thoughtfully. There is wisdom in that, making order from chaos. Perhaps all meditation is simply finding our own way to quiet the noise of existence. Ambassador Q visited on the 4th day. He looked tired and stressed. Your Majesty, he said formally, The council wishes to know your intentions. Will you attend the peace negotiations? Queen Vix was quiet for a long moment. I have not decided. Q's face fell. Your Majesty, if you choose war, millions will die. Surely, millions died when my daughter was murdered, the Queen said coldly. Where was the Council's concern then? It wasn't the Council who killed her, Q argued. It was a radical faction. They don't represent... Enough! The Queen's voice was hard. Leave me! I will give my answer when I am ready. After Q left, the chamber was tense. Hana looked up at the Queen. You're still angry? Yes. That's okay, Hana said. You're allowed to be angry. Bad things happened. Dad says anger is like fire. It can burn you, or you can use it to cook dinner. You get to choose. Tay winced. That's not exactly what I said. Close enough, Hana shrugged, but Queen Vix tilted her head. Anger as a tool, not a master. Your father's wisdom again? He's pretty smart, Hana said loyally. What would you have me do, little one? The beings who killed my Lyra are still free. They celebrate her death. They believe they won. Hana thought about it carefully. Did they win? What? If you become mean and angry forever, if you stop being the kind of queen that Princess Lyra loved, then maybe they did win. Maybe they didn't just kill her. They killed who you used to be, too. The words hung in the air. Tay saw something change in the Queen's posture. She stood up and walked to the hologram controls. Images of Princess Lyra appeared again. She believed in justice, not revenge, Queen Vix said quietly. She believed that leaders should protect, not destroy. When she was 12 years old, she asked me why we had armies. I told her it was to defend our people. She asked why we couldn't have protection without weapons, why we couldn't build peace instead of preparing for war. The Queen touched one of the holograms, her hand passing through the light. I told her she was too young to understand the real universe. That idealism was beautiful, but impractical. But you loved that she thought that way, Hana said. Yes, I did. Queen Vix turned to face them. She made me want to be better. And when she died, I forgot that. I forgot everything except pain and rage. Over the next days, something shifted. The Queen began asking Tay about human philosophy, human culture. She seemed fascinated by the idea that humans, despite being less advanced technologically, had developed complex ideas about ethics and compassion. On my world, Tay explained, we have many different beliefs, but most of them agree on some basic things. Treat others well, protect children, help those who suffer. These aren't complicated ideas. Yet so many species forget them, the Queen said. Maybe because they are trying too hard to be complicated, Tay suggested. Sometimes the simplest answer is the right one. On the 7th day, Queen Vix made an announcement. She would attend one negotiation session. Just one. She would listen to what the council had to say. The station erupted with activity. Diplomats scrambled to prepare. Ambassador Q looked like he might cry with relief, but before the negotiation, the Queen had a private dinner with Tai and Hana. Real food this time, prepared by the station's best chefs. Dishes from Earth and from the Altharian homeworld, arranged beautifully on a table. I want to thank you, Queen Vix said as they ate. Both of you. You gave me something I had lost. What's that? Hana asked. Hope. The possibility that there is a path forward that doesn't end in fire and blood. She looked at Tai. You asked me once if I had taught Hana to be fearlessly kind, but I should ask you the same question. How did a janitor working alone, raising a daughter in a universe that looks down on humans, teach her such strength? Tay was uncomfortable with the attention. I just tried to be a good example. My wife and I, we believe that kindness isn't weakness, that helping others is what makes us human. Human, the Queen repeated. Such a small word for such a profound idea. To be human, to have humanity. Your species uses the same word for both, yes? Yes, Tay confirmed. That is beautiful. To say that being human and having compassion are the same thing. My species has no such word. Perhaps we should learn one. The next morning, Queen Vix attended the negotiation. Tay and Hana were not allowed inside, but they watched from an observation room with Ambassador Q. The Queen listened to proposals. She asked hard questions. She demanded justice for her daughter's death, but not through genocide. She wanted the criminals punished, but not their entire species. It was not peace, not yet, but it was a start. When the session ended, Q turned to Tai with wonder in his eyes. What did you do? How did you change her? Tai shook his head. I didn't change anyone. Hana just reminded her who she wanted to be. That night, as Tay tucked Hana into bed in their small quarters, she asked him a question. Dad, do you think we made a difference? Tay thought about the Queen's laughter, about the negotiations, about the fact that war had been delayed, maybe prevented. Yeah, sweetheart, I think we did. Good, Hana yawned. I like the Queen. She's nice when she's not sad. Tay kissed her forehead and turned off the light. As he sat in the darkness of their tiny apartment, he allowed himself to feel something he had not felt in a long time. Pride. His daughter had touched the heart of a queen. She had helped prevent a war, and she had done it all by simply being herself, kind and honest and brave. Maybe humans did belong in the galaxy after all. The alarm woke Tay at 3 a.m, not the gentle wake-up alarm on his device, but the station's emergency alarm. Red lights flashed in the darkness of their quarters. Dad? Hana's sleepy voice came from her bed. It's okay, Tay said automatically, though his heart was racing. Probably just a drill. But it was not a drill. His communication device buzzed urgently. Ambassador Q's face appeared, panicked. Tay, get Hana and get to the safe rooms, now! We're under attack! What? Who? The same faction that killed Princess Lyra. They're here. They know the Queen is softening. They want to kill her before she makes peace. Move! Tay grabbed Hana, wrapping her in a blanket. They ran into the corridor where other residents were evacuating. Alien families, human workers, everyone moving in organized chaos toward the safe rooms deep in the station's core. But as they ran, Tay's device buzzed again. This time it was a guard he recognized from Queen Vix's chambers. Tay, the child Hana, they're looking for her too. They know the Queen cares about her. They want to use her as leverage. You need to hide, not evacuate. The evacuation routes might be compromised. Tay's blood turned to ice. His daughter. They were hunting his daughter. He changed direction, pulling Hana into a service corridor. These were the passages he used every night for cleaning. He knew them better than anyone. Dad, what's happening? Hana asked, fear creeping into her voice. Bad people are here, Tay said, keeping his voice steady. But I know all the secret paths. We'll be safe. They moved through the maintenance tunnels. Tay's mind raced. Where could they hide? The safe rooms were out. Their quarters were too obvious. He needed somewhere the attackers would not think to look. An explosion rocked the station. Hana screamed. Tay held her tighter. It's okay. It's okay, he whispered, though his own hands were shaking. He heard footsteps behind them. Heavy boots. Not station security. They wore soft shoes. These were attackers. Tay ran faster, pulling Hana through a narrow access hatch. They crawled through a ventilation shaft, then dropped into a storage room filled with cleaning supplies. His supplies. Stay quiet, he breathed in Hana's ear. They heard voices in the corridor outside, rough voices speaking in a language Tay did not know, but he understood the tone. They were hunting. Tay looked around desperately. The storage room had no other exits. If they were found here, they were trapped. Think like a janitor. These rooms were designed for efficiency. There had to be something. His eyes fell on the ventilation grate high on the wall. Too small for an adult, but maybe... "Hana," he whispered, "can you fit through there?" She looked at the grate, then nodded. Tay lifted her up, removing the grate as quietly as possible. "Crawl through the duct. Stay in there and don't make a sound no matter what happens. Understand?" "Dad." "Please, sweetheart. Trust me." Tears streamed down Hana's face, but she climbed into the duct. Tay replaced the grate just as the door burst open. 3 attackers entered, wearing combat armor and carrying weapons. They were Velcrin, a species known for being mercenaries. One of them pointed a weapon at Tay. "The human janitor," the Velcrin said in rough galactic common. "Where is the child?" "I don't know," Tay lied. "I got separated from her during the evacuation." The Velcrin leader grabbed Tay by the throat, lifting him off the ground. "Lie to me again, and I'll make your death slow." Tay could not breathe. Black spots danced in his vision, but he thought of Hana in the vent, listening. He had to protect her. The Velcrin threw him against the wall. Pain exploded through Tay's body. "Search the room," the leader ordered. They tore through the storage area, throwing aside supplies. Tay's mind raced. They would find the vent eventually. He needed to draw them away. "She's probably in the main evacuation route," Tay gasped. "Level 12, Section B. I heard guards taking her there." The Velcrins studied him. "You're lying." "But maybe we'll check anyway. Bring him." They dragged Ty into the corridor. He caught one glimpse of the vent grate before they turned the corner. "Stay hidden, Hana. Please stay hidden." But they did not go far. An explosion erupted ahead of them, and through the smoke came Queen Vix. She moved like a storm, her massive form a blur of deadly grace. Her guards flanked her, weapons firing. The Velcrins scattered. In the chaos, Tay broke free and ran back toward the storage room. He had to get Hana. He burst through the door and pulled off the vent grate. "Hana, come on!" But the vent was empty. Terror seized him. "Hana!" "Looking for the child?" a voice said behind him. Tay turned. Another Velcrin stood in the doorway, and in his arms was Hana, struggling and crying. The attacker held a knife to her throat. "One move, Janitor!" And she dies. Time seemed to stop. Tay saw his daughter's terrified face. He saw the knife, cold metal against her skin, and he realized he had failed. He had tried to protect her, but it had not been enough. "Let her go," Tay said, his voice breaking. "Please, she's just a child." "She's leverage," the Velcrin replied. "The Queen wants peace. She'll give us safe passage off this station and immunity from prosecution, or the child dies." "You won't make it off the station," Tay said desperately. "You're surrounded." "Maybe, but we'll take her with us." The Velcrin started backing toward the corridor. "Come with us, Janitor. If you cooperate, maybe she lives." Tay followed, helpless. His mind screamed for a solution, but there was none. He was a janitor, not a fighter. What could he do against an armed mercenary? They reached the main corridor. The Velcrin called out, "I have the child! Fall back to extraction point!" Other attackers appeared, forming a protective circle. They began moving toward the docking bay. Tay walked with them, his eyes never leaving Hana. Then Queen Vix appeared at the end of the corridor. She stood alone, massive and terrifying. Her guards were nowhere in sight. She looked at Hana, then at Tay, then at the Velcrin holding the knife. "Release them," she said quietly. "Give us safe passage," the Velcrin leader shouted, "or the child dies." "If you harm her," Queen Vix said, her voice dropping to something primal and dangerous, "I will hunt every member of your species. I will burn your colonies to ash. I will erase your names from history. This I swear." The Velcrin hesitated. The Queen was offering them something worse than death, eternal destruction. But the leader laughed. "Big words from a queen who wants peace. You won't risk war over one human child." "You misunderstand," Queen Vix said. I am willing to have peace, but I am capable of war. And if you hurt that little girl, you will learn the difference." She took a step forward. The Velcrin tightened his grip on Hana, the knife pressing into her skin. Tay could not think, could not breathe. His daughter, his precious daughter. Then Hana did something brave and foolish. She bit the Velcrin's arm as hard as she could. The mercenary screamed, his grip loosening for just a second. It was enough. Queen Vix moved faster than anything that size should move. She crossed the distance in a heartbeat. One massive hand grabbing the Velcrin and hurling him away from Hana. The knife clattered to the floor. The other attackers opened fire, but the Queen's armor plating deflected their weapons. She fought like a force of nature, protecting Hana with her own body. Tay ran forward, grabbing his daughter and pulling her behind him. He would shield her with his body if needed. It was all he could do. Station security arrived, led by Ambassador Q. The remaining attackers were surrounded, outnumbered. They surrendered. It was over. Tay collapsed to his knees, holding Hana tight. She was crying, shaking, but alive. Alive. Queen Vix stood over them, breathing hard. "Are you hurt?" "No," Tay managed. "Thank you. Thank you." The Queen knelt down, bringing her face close to Hana's. "You were very brave, little one. Very foolish, but very brave." "I remembered what Dad said," Hana sniffled. "When bad things happen, you have to fight back, even if you're scared." Queen Vix looked at Tay. "Your father teaches you well." As medical teams arrived to check them over, Tay realized something. The Queen had come for them. She had risked herself to save Hana, not for politics, not for strategy, because she cared. In that moment, Tay understood that everything had changed. Not just for him and Hana, but for everyone on this station. The Queen who came for war had chosen to protect instead of destroy, and that choice would echo across the galaxy. The medical bay was quiet except for the soft beeping of monitors. Tay sat on the edge of a bed, bandages wrapped around his ribs where the Velcrin had thrown him against the wall. Hana was in the next bed, sleeping peacefully under sedation. The doctors said she was fine, physically, but they wanted her to rest after the trauma. Queen Vix entered the medical bay, her footsteps heavy but careful. She had to duck through the doorway to fit her massive frame inside. "How is she?" the Queen asked quietly. "She'll be okay," Tay said. "They said no permanent damage." "Good." The Queen sat down on a reinforced chair near them. For a long moment, she simply watched Hana sleep. "I have been a leader for 43 years. I have made countless decisions that affected billions of lives. But today I realized something." "What's that?" Tay asked. "All those decisions, all that power, meant nothing when I saw that knife at her throat. In that moment, I was not a queen. I was just someone trying to save a child I care about." Tay understood. He had felt the same helplessness. "They've arrested all the attackers," Queen Vix continued. 17 Velcrin mercenaries hired by the same faction that killed my Lyra. They confessed everything. They hoped that killing me or taking Hana would restart the war. "Will you give them what they want?" Tay asked. "Will you declare war now?" The Queen was quiet. Then she said, "No." Tay looked at her in surprise. "Because Hana was right," Queen Vix explained. "If I let them turn me into something my daughter would not recognize, then they truly have won. They killed Lyra's body, but I will not let them kill her ideals." She stood and walked to the window overlooking the station. "Tomorrow I address the Galactic Council. I will propose something that Lyra dreamed of. A new framework for protecting civilians, especially children, across all species. Peace through protection, not through fear of retaliation." "They'll listen to you?" Tay asked. "They will now, because I will tell them about a human janitor and his daughter, about how a child's kindness reminded me what true strength looks like." The next day, the council chamber was filled to capacity. Representatives from hundreds of species gathered to hear Queen Vix speak. Ambassador Q had gotten special permission for Tai and Hana to watch from a viewing gallery. Hana held her father's hand tightly. She was quiet today, still processing what had happened. But she wanted to be there. Queen Vix stood at the center of the chamber, imposing and regal. When she spoke, her voice carried to every corner. 6 months ago, my daughter was murdered by political extremists. In my grief, I prepared for war. I wanted revenge. I wanted those responsible to burn. She paused. Many of you expected me to come here and declare that war. Some of you feared it. Others quietly hoped for it, because war is profitable for those who sell weapons and provide services. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. I am not declaring war, Queen Vix announced. Instead, I propose the Lyra Accords, named for my daughter. A comprehensive framework for protecting civilians in political conflicts, strict punishments for those who target children and families, and an exchange program to help species understand each other better. She gestured, and a hologram appeared showing the proposals in detail. Many council members looked skeptical. You wonder why I changed my mind, Queen Vix said. Let me tell you, I met a human child, 8 years old. Her name is Hana. She is the daughter of a janitor, one of the lowest positions on this station. By the standards of most species here, she is nobody important. In the gallery, Hana shrank back, embarrassed, but Tay squeezed her hand encouragingly. This child saw me, an alien queen in mourning, and offered me a flower. She spoke to me with honest compassion. She reminded me that grief is universal, that loss connects us rather than divides us. And yesterday, when terrorists held a knife to her throat, she fought back. She was terrified, but she was brave. The queen's voice grew stronger. Her father, Tay, is a janitor. He cleans floors and maintains air filters, jobs that many of you would consider beneath you. But he taught his daughter wisdom that eludes most of our philosophers. He taught her that kindness is not weakness, that helping others is what gives life meaning, that we honor our dead not through revenge, but through living in ways that make them proud. She looked directly at the viewing gallery, at Tai and Hana. Humanity has been part of the Galactic Council for less than 5 years. Many of you see them as primitive, unimportant. But I tell you this, their species has something we have forgotten. They remember that every individual matters, that a janitor and his child can change the course of history, not through weapons or wealth, but through simple human decency. The chamber was completely silent now. I support the Lyra Accords, Queen Vix declared, and I name humanity as co-sponsors of this initiative in recognition of what they have taught me. If any species votes against these accords, they vote against the memory of my daughter and the wisdom of a human child. Choose carefully. The vote was not immediate. There were debates, discussions, amendments. But 3 days later, the Lyra Accords passed with overwhelming support. Not every species voted yes, but enough did. Ambassador Q found Tay in his quarters where he was packing to return to his old job. The diplomat looked exhausted but happy. You know you don't have to go back to cleaning, right? Q said. The council wants to offer you a position, cultural advisor or something. Better pay, better... I like cleaning, Tay interrupted gently. It's honest work, and I'm good at it. But after everything that happened happened because I was just being myself. A father trying to raise his daughter right. I don't need a fancy title for that. Q smiled. You're a strange man, Tay. But maybe that's what the galaxy needs. Strange humans who don't want fame or power. That evening, Queen Vix invited them for one final dinner. It was just the 3 of them, no guards or advisors. They ate together and talked about small things. Favorite foods, funny stories, normal conversation between friends. At the end, Queen Vix gave Hana a gift. It was a small device that projected holograms. "This contains memories of my daughter," she said. "Stories, images, her favorite poems. I want you to have it so you can remember her. And when you're older, you can show your children. You can tell them about Princess Lyra, who dreamed of peace." Hana held the device carefully, like it was made of glass. "I'll take good care of it." "I know you will." The queen touched Hana's head gently with one massive hand. "You are a remarkable child, Hana. Never let anyone tell you otherwise." To Tay, she said, "Your species may not have our technology or our empires, but you have something more valuable. You remember that compassion matters, that kindness is powerful, that the smallest gesture can change everything. We're just people," Tay said, "trying to do our best." "That," Queen Vix said, "is exactly what makes you extraordinary." Months passed. Life on the station slowly returned to normal. Tay went back to his cleaning shifts. Hana returned to school. The Lyra Accords were implemented across the sector, and gradually conflicts began to cool. The story of the human janitor and his daughter spread throughout the galaxy. Some people dismissed it as a nice tale. Others saw it as proof that humanity had a unique role to play in the galactic community. One night, Tay and Hana stood at the observation deck looking at the stars. A group of alien children played nearby, and several of them ran over to ask if Hana wanted to join them. She looked at her father, who nodded. As Hana ran off to play, Ambassador Q appeared beside Ty. "Do you ever think about what would have happened if Hana hadn't wandered into that chamber?" Q asked. Tay considered it. "The Queen probably would have declared war. Millions would have died. The sector would be burning right now. All prevented by a little girl offering a flower to a sad queen. And by a queen who was wise enough to accept it," Tay added. They watched the children play, human and alien together, laughing in different languages but understanding each other perfectly. "You know what the other species are saying?" Q said. "They're saying humanity's greatest export isn't our technology or our resources. It's our reminder that compassion matters, that every individual, no matter how small or seemingly unimportant, can make a difference." Tay smiled. "That's a good export." "The best," Q agreed. In the distance, on a ship preparing to leave the station, Queen Vix watched the same scene through a viewport. Her advisors were discussing trade routes and diplomatic schedules, but she was not listening. She was thinking about a human child who saw suffering and responded with kindness. About a father who taught his daughter that helping others was what gave life meaning. She had come to this station seeking vengeance. Instead, she had found something far more valuable. She had found hope. She had found the reminder that her daughter's dream of peace was not naive or impossible. It was worth fighting for. Queen Vix turned from the viewport and gave orders to her crew. There was work to do. The Lyra Accords needed to be implemented. Peace needed to be built and maintained. And she would do it, not as a warrior queen seeking revenge, but as a leader honoring her daughter's memory. All because a human janitor and his daughter had shown her a different path. Back on the station, Hana returned to her father, breathless from playing. "Dad, I made 3 new friends. One of them is from a planet that has 2 suns. Can you imagine? 2 suns!" Tay laughed and hugged his daughter. "I bet that's amazing." "It is. They invited me to visit someday." "Can we go?" "Maybe when you're older," Tay said. "For now, we have school tomorrow. Come on, time for bed." As they walked back to their small quarters, Hana asked, "Dad, do you think we really made a difference?" Tay thought about the Lyra Accords, about the peace that was slowly spreading, about Queen Vix, who chose compassion over vengeance. "Yes, sweetheart," he said softly. "I think we really did." And in that moment, in a small apartment on a massive space station, a janitor and his daughter had everything they needed. Not wealth or fame or power, just each other, and the knowledge that kindness, no matter how small, could echo across the stars and change the fate of worlds. That was the human gift to the galaxy, and it was enough.